pump our way through this wall. Another mini boss. Good evening, welcome in. You guys are having a fine little Wednesday. Running a little bit late here. When am I not? Let's see. I wanted to do here was I wanted to go here and over here. Yeah, it looks fine. So this is the first 3-minute series. And I'm not sure what we're calling, but it's definitely part of World of Commodore Wednesdays, which we haven't really done for a while now. I didn't have Wednesdays off last winter. I really needed to be there for the kids. My wife was doing schoolwork on Wednesdays. And I'm back in full force, so I figured we turn these Wednesday night streams into development streams. The original plan was to just continue the Amiga stuff on Wednesdays, but somehow I want to do this more, and plan is to see if we can hash together a C128 role-playing game, even if it's basically a skeleton of such a game, and figure out the steps that we would need to develop such a game. And one of the reasons I want to do it on the Commodore 128 instead of something else is that there are very few games out for the 80-column high-resolution display chip of the Commodore 128, and it fascinates me a little bit because I think it's a bit of an oddity. It's a chip that was included with the computer, but very few people actually used for anything other than basic word processing. It does have some interesting features, although it's somewhat difficult and weird to program for. But the plan is at least to try to make the game in high resolution. Now, there are obvious drawbacks to doing so. And, I think one of the things that will hit us perhaps the hardest is the fact that there are really no such things as sprites, and that writing to it can be interesting. So we'll undoubtedly face some issues doing this. Now, I have looked into this a little bit, and I'm not doing this completely cold, although I can't really say I planned this a lot. But roughly, what I've been able to do so far is look up how we could potentially, or a rough idea of how we could potentially do this, and the way the chip works is that it has its own dedicated memory, which is certainly interesting, and it has a very tiny window in which you can program it in, and you can't access its memory directly from BASIC. What you can do, however, is have it do some of the hard work for you, so it's not impossible to use. And the way it basically works is that it has 16K of memory, of which part is dedicated to what is essentially just a text display. And you can write to the text display in a similar way as you can write directly to the screen of the Commodore 64. You could write directly to an area of RAM that will be displayed on screen, although you have to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to do so. And you can customize the characters. It has a customizable character ROM, and you can have multiple copies of them as well. So what is fairly likely in terms of graphics is that most of the game will be character graphics based. I think most of the moving parts in the game, and including the main game viewing area itself, will have to be character graphics based. I don't think, although there is a bitmap feature, I don't think that we could draw fast enough to it to make it fluid enough. But I think we might be able to pull off a character graphics based viewpoint, although how big it can actually be remains a bit of a question, and we'll sort of have to find out. I'm getting an actual C128 soon, which is definitely necessary to be able to test the game. We're going to have to, I think, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to do this pretty much cycle exact, because we're probably going to have to count the cycles to be able to pull this off. The thing is that if you want to write to the graphics chip while a CPU is also working, you have to wait a bit between telling the chip that you want to address it and until it's ready to receive code. And this wait state probably means that if we were to do it that way, it would be too slow to update in any sort of real time. However, if you wait until the V-blank period where the video isn't being output, you can basically toss things into it without having to worry about the wait state. So my thinking is that first of all, if we're running in the 80 character mode, so we'll definitely be running in the 80 character mode, we can run the CPU at 2 megahertz instead of the 1 megahertz, which is needed if you want to use the regular video chip, which is from the Commodore 64, which then has to share the RAM with the CPU. So we can run the CPU at 2 megahertz. Graphics updates during VBlank. Do we use the bitmap mode for still graphics? For example, when you're in an area and you need to display a picture, could we then use the bitmap mode? We obviously need some graphic assets. I'm not an artist by any means, and there are ready-made assets we can certainly get on places like itch.io, which we can use in the game. And it's obvious that we'll need to find something fitting. And we're gonna need some helper tools to convert the assets that we do use into characters, because we're gonna have to use graphical characters to draw the display, and that is obviously going to be limited, so we need some sort of way of doing that. And the character is essentially just an 8x8, and you can have a foreground and a background. So there are some interesting settings around that as well. There might be some hacks that we can access. the internet is a pretty great resource tool for doing this sort of work. There's people that have been hacking around on this chip for a while. I've written blogs about it, and I've also made videos about it, and that's basically how I stumbled upon this idea in the first place. So I saw an interesting video of how you could use this chip, and sort of came up with the idea that we should do something like this. Now, in terms of sound, we have a SID chip. We have a SID chip, so we can obviously either make or borrow some tunes. There's a pretty big library of SID tunes out there, and I know some people as well who might potentially be interested in writing some tunes for us and, to allow us to use them in the game. I doubt we're going to be selling this game. It's not going to be high enough quality to be a commercial game. It's just going to be a fun little project, something for us to do. But it will be more fun if we could have some background music, and we can certainly use the SID. There's pretty much zero CPU impact in having the music running in the background. How roughly about the game window, just we're designing this as we go along here. My thinking is that we're going to be doing something pretty similar to something like Might and Magic 1 or 2. So in here we're going to have could be there is the monster list and some general information. That's probably going to be a decently long thing. The width of the display somewhat depends on how much we can get away with doing. On the other display, how big the view window can really be. This is essentially the main viewing area. Something like this. And somewhere over here, I'm gonna have some sort of commands and actions. I think there are some ports. I know someone has ported Ultima to a similar sort of thing, using probably very similar ideas to what we have now, but that's not really what I want to play, is it? And, I want to see how far we can get, because I've seen some of the demos that people are able to push through these chips, and it can certainly do lots of interesting things. The question is, how far can we really push this thing? And It's at least aren't at least very many of these 128 exclusive games in general. If you count all of the games, it's not a high number at all. So sort of makes it more fun. Or if you have the commands and actions and so forth over here. Probably talking about a split here. Something like this. Having it in the high-res mode obviously offers us a lot more. That makes it a lot more fun to do the game. You can display a lot more information. Although you can certainly get away with using low-res graphics for some things. This is, I think, more ideal. The information and text is here, and the characters are here. So, something like this. Roughly. Is roughly what we're doing. Now, this is going to be an assembly. That's really the only thing that we could potentially use. And we'll try to write some utility functions to help us along to try to make that slightly easier, but I really don't think that you could realistically do this on a machine this slow without using assembly. And luckily there are plenty of open source projects, and there are easy things to use that I can basically just use in Windows to develop, and we can test using C64K and Wise. I've done a little bit, but it's going to be a bit of a learning curve as well. I did some on the 68HC11 microcontroller. I've done a little bit of that. And I've done a little of M68K assembly as well, but assembly is assembly, so there are good resources online and lots of example code out there, so we can it's going to be a learning curve nonetheless. And I find it very likely that I'll work on this game off stream as well. We'll just we use the streams to try to do things together where we can. Now I have a rough idea for a plot. There is this thing in Greek mythology called Hyperborea, which supposedly is a mythical land filled with mythical people who lived in the far northern part of the known world. And apparently, according to legend, despite the location in an otherwise frigid part of the world, and I'm reading directly from Wikipedia here, the Hyperboreans were believed to inhabit a sunny, temperate, and divinely blessed land. And in many versions of the story, they lived north of the Fian Mountains, which shielded them from the effects of the cold north wind. Now, my thinking is that this is a mythical land filled with magical creatures, and what is considered to be the Rifian Mountains is basically a force field which shields the humans from getting into this world, which exists on the same plane as Earth, but isn't actually part of it. And we'll try to make up some interesting story about how a group of mercenaries are trying to escape from the force field and invade Earth in order to get more resources, and how it's our job to protect them from doing so. Probably fighting through a bunch of dungeons and saving a bunch of people and solving all sorts of quests in order to do so. I don't think that coming up with a rough idea of how we could do this is particularly difficult. At least that's probably not going to be the most difficult part. It might be a cliche, but I'm sure we can find a way to make it at least interesting. Yeah, we're going to have a castle guard. Yeah, that's right. We never did solve that puzzle. And did you Google it at the time? Is that actually an answer to this question? There has to be. There has to be an actual meaningful solution to the puzzle. But, I'm not sure we ever got an actual tip as to how to solve it either. And we visited basically every place in the game. Well, it's an idea at this point for the AK RAM. Yeah, it's far more fun to try to work out the puzzles together. Yeah, that's the idea at least. That's the raw plot. At least the what I have so far, and I think we can build on this to basically make it into a decent game. Now, just to have a rough idea of some elements that we need, because I need to start mapping out what it is that we need to do, and yeah, these fall games are always very nice. We need to have some rough idea of what it is that we need to do. It's obvious that I think I'm pretty much settled on the game having auto mapping. So you will just have mapping, and you'll be able to press M to see a map. And that means that the view window needs to be at least 16 by 16. Because that's going to be the map size for everything. Every single map is going to be a 16 by 16. And that will simplify things quite a bit. There will be towns. How many, I'm not sure, but maybe 5 seems like a decently good number. Also a somewhat classical Might and Magic number of towns. This game will probably have whatever rules I decide it has, because I can mix and match Dungeons and Dragons and Might and Magic rules and any rule I want. I don't have to follow any rule book. I can basically just make it so that I like it. I don't much care whether someone else does or not, but I'm open to ideas and suggestions though. And there will be dungeons, lots and lots of dungeons. And probably some castles. And I'm roughly thinking that the total number of towns, dungeons, and castles doesn't exceed 31. Just a rough guesstimate. So we're bound by, or if we're maybe if we're very busy, we'll try our hand at 63. But there is there is finite RAM, and what I don't like is games that have to constantly load in between action. So I would very much prefer that not to be the case. So as much as we can possibly just have in memory, that's good. Yeah, I know, but you still have to load the game, and that's just the way it is. Working with a VTC chip probably means that it has to be cycle exact or pretty close to being cycle exact. Maybe we can work out some code to adjust the timing of the chip so that it can deviate a little bit, but still. Yeah, I might make it into a card game. We'll see. That's not impossible for me to do. I have an Ultimate 2 Plus card. I can try to make it into a card so we can just load it from ROM. That might be one way to get around it. We'll see. Yeah, it's decently easy to just back in different stuff that way. much faster than having to load it from disk. That might mean that we would be able to expand it, but we'll see. Since we aren't going to be having any bitmap graphics, I have a feeling that we're probably going to be saying that 16K of VTC memory is sufficient. That probably means that we can keep most of the character assets, at least all the character assets that we're currently using in the VTC video RAM. And what I'm thinking is that each time you enter a new map, will bulk transfer from memory or from the card, depending on how we do this. As you load the map. So that means that we have plenty of space in the RAM to be able to do this. Now, one advantage of this chip is that it does have a method of copying memory from one place to another without involving the CPU. That's really the way it blits. So if you have a decently large block that needs to be copied, you can do so with a pretty much minimal impact to the CPU. You can just tell it to do so. So that's one way of doing it.
To match the higher intelligence of the new Commodore 128, an Apple
thanks
IIc
for the
would have to
bitties,
add
Josh.
3 more
Thanks for the
2Cs to
best
expand the
wishes as well.
512K.
48 Cram cheered X128. We'll have fun. Gotta run.
I think the alert is lost somewhere. But thanks for the bits nonetheless. Well, if we do this, that means we have a lot of flexibility in terms of graphics we can use per map. We can allow ourselves to do quite a bit here. And I think one of the most important bits as we get slightly further into what we're doing is probably going to be some sort of utility to create those maps and map them into characters that we can use in the game. I think that's we're gonna have to make some sort of utility probably for Windows that we can use to do that for us, because that's otherwise going to be a ton of work. And if we make a utility to do it for us, it will make doing things much easier. Now we need some sort of action code, and I'm somewhat split on what exactly it is that we should do here, but I'm thinking at least first visit is a different trigger than a future visit. So if you're entering a map for the first time, or if you're entering a spot on the map for the first time, if you're hey there, Racing Beam, welcome in. We can trigger something different than if you've been there before, which means that in the save we have to map what it is that you visited and what you haven't visited. This enables us to do things like have some enemies respawn and some not, and give some introduction to a new location, for example, when you enter it the first time but not the second time, and make it harder or easier to have enemies that respawn in a location, have enemies that always respawn in a certain location, and so on. So At least for now, that's the plan with the action code, that the first and future visits will be separated. I don't think we'll have to keep track of how many times you visited something. Don't think we'll need to do that, but at least keep these two separated, which does complicate things a little bit. Obviously, have to be monsters. And how many remains a question, sort of depends on the assets that we can have as well. And how many realistically we can add. And they're going to have all sorts of attributes, obviously. And I will have obviously hit points, some sort of armor class, weapons, spells, and specials. We're thinking of making a Commodore 128 role-playing game. We're thinking of making it. It's a pretty steep plan. We'll see how far we get. It's amazing what you can actually do if you set your mind to it. These are the pretty obvious things. They have hit points and armor classes. They have weapons. Probably melee and range, depending on where they are. Probably have a spell or spells they can cast. Find it more likely that it will be a singular thing. Some sort of special attack that they can use. Characters have abilities. I think we're looking at the fairly usual list of things. Let's bring up a list here. We have might, we have intellect, personality, endurance, speed, accuracy, and luck. And then we have a class. And then we have a class, and we have a race. I'm somewhat tempted to skip the alignment. It's always annoyed me to no end. Perhaps unreasonably, but I've never liked the alignment. And, there's nothing that really says that you need to have it. And gender. And we're gonna have a non-binary option. And we're gonna be the first role-playing game to do that. in terms of classes. We take the race first. It's human, elf, dwarf, gnome, and half-orc. And classes are knight, paladin, archer, cleric, sorcerer, something else. And some skills. Going to have some skills. Bard. Do you want a bard? We can have a bard. What's his strength? How does he vary? Do you want a druid as well? I'm big trying to give her. How does the bard work? Going to be skills. Lockpicking is going to be a skill. You can train someone to be a lockpicker. Sing the Song of Sid. I'm thinking 6 player characters up to 2 higher to found characters, so a party of 8 max. Mountain climbing. How do they rate? How do they rate in terms of being able to fight and use magic? Yeah, we can tune things out, obviously. But you have to play with someone who's. You sort of need at least 8 classes, probably more. Lock picking, mountain climbing, hiking. Ultima Online, yeah, it was highly popular. Cartography is obviously a skill. Whether we have a character that starts with it or not, we'll see. Sense danger is a skill. Oh, might not be able to see it. Let me. There we go. Sorry. Sense danger is definitely a skill. Merchant is a skill. Meditation is a skill. Secret spotting is a skill. Swimming is a skill. Bodybuilder is a skill. Think of any other skills? Coffee drinker is a skill. We have a few. We'll add to this as we go along. Some of these are combat skills, bodybuilder. More hit points. Arms master is a skill. More damage. Meditation is more spell points. Lockpicking is here. undoubtedly more. Perhaps. Now each character has 2 key stats, and I think we all pretty much know what this is. It's might and endurance. And then it's speed and accuracy. Here it's also might and endurance. And also personality, speed and accuracy. For the archer, it's probably speed and accuracy first. And then might, intellect and endurance as the minor stats. Key stats for the cleric, personality, or do we reverse these two here? Is it like this? Or even like this? It's probably like this. Personality and accuracy, endurance, speed, key stats here, intellect, accuracy, I don't think we have to worry a lot about the RAM use. Don't think that's where the RAM use will come in. It's just a question of how much complexity is in the engine as such when you have to take into account these different characters, but I'm not terribly worried about that. They could fit all of Might and Magic 2 into a 64K C64, and then we can certainly do something much smaller on a 128 machine. Number 2 is, which is really quite a task if you think about it, but that must have been a pretty difficult task. It's a decently sized game. And, it was available on most of the 8-bits. Another druid here is going to be come back to that when we get to the magic, but it's going to be a sort of a mix between a cleric and a sorcerer. What's the key stats of the bard? No, I'm not going to use a class for it. I'm just going to have lockpicking as a skill. So you can make any character into a lockpicker, potentially more than one, and train them. So key stats here are luck and speed, might, endurance, accuracy. Is the bard a magical caster? So if you think clerical spells, clerics get all the levels. Paladin gets up to level 5. Bard gets up to level 5. and a special spell, Serenade, which is only available to him. The druid gets up to level 3. Same with the sorcerer spells. Sorcerer gets all levels. Archer gets up to level 5. Druid gets up to level 3. So the druid is basically both a paladin and a sorcerer, but he can only learn spells up to level 3. Does that sound reasonable? Do you want it to be called Silbert Beacon? How about Egg and Beacon? Hey there, White Walter Retro, welcome in. Yeah, everything is fine and dandy. Yeah, we haven't done anything yet, but at least it's a plan. Plans are good. Ninja sounds better, right? If it's a monk, it should be clerical spells as well, so it's sort of cheating to give him sorcerer spells. And it's a game we're designing so we can do whatever we want. Whether we actually get to finish implementing it is another question, but hero has to be a hero, not ninja. Does it need to be a turtle as well? Or? I get a special spell called ninjutsu, which is a ninja only spell. I'm limiting it to level 3, not 5. We have 9 classes. Yeah, there are obviously limitations. The barbarian is limited on armor and weapons. Can't do any magic. Only certain armor and certain weapons work on the barbarian. It's very limited what you can do with him. But he's a very powerful fighter, but with severe limitations. A knight can use any armor and weapon, can't do any magic. The paladin can use most armor and weapons, clerical spells. The archer, limited armor and weapons, sorcerer spells. The cleric, limited armor and very limited weapons, clerical spells. The druid has limited armor and weapons. He can use some bows, not all of them, and has clerical and sorcerer spells up to a limited level. The bard Does that seem reasonable? We'll come back to this. Obviously, we can change anything we want as we get along. If we find that it doesn't work, we can move it around. Now, there are some limits as to the spells. There can only be 5 level 1, 2, 3 spells. Because I want to be able to call the spells by pressing a number on the number keypad, and that means using 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which means that for the characters that have both the clerical and the sorcerer spells, to be able to cast all of them, there can only be 5 of each. But there can be up to 10 level 4 to 9 spells. And I'm thinking the special spell that the bard and the ninja get, they come in on level 4, so they can reach a magic level of 4 basically, but they can't learn any more spells except they get access to their special spell. So they do have to level up quite a bit to be able to access it. It's not something that you get given at the start of the game. That means we have a space for a single level 4 spell. We don't have to limit the level 1 to 3 spells further than we already have to do. Yeah, that's the thinking, bloody cactus. I have an actual C128 coming, so something to actually playtest this on. But let's see how far we get with the actual development of the game. Planning is one thing, actually developing and getting this working is a totally different beast. But it's at least a fun little project, and if we fail, we fail. It's not a big deal. Now let's get cracking. Let's think a little bit. I use the I have a basic skeleton that I been playing around with CA65 and CL65, and I at least have the code running. It doesn't actually do anything, but I have a basic understanding of how to compile and link the code and get it working. But where that leads us, we'll see. It's not a bad little thing, and it can be fun. Let's see. Awaken is one, obviously. Bless. First aid. light. Turn on that. Level 2. Pain. Cure wounds. Protection from elements. Heroism. Yeah, I've been watching some basic tutorials and some reading some blogs as well to get some ideas of what could be done. I sort of went through the technical nitty-gritty details earlier of what I'm thinking of doing. Roughly the plan is to make the game largely in text mode using what is probably going to be a custom font, and we're going to be doing it in 80 column mode. We're going to have to map whatever assets we find on itch.io, or I managed to purchase on itch.io, to draw something on the viewing area. I'm not an artist by any means, and it's probably not going to be the prettiest game in the world ever, but the idea is to try to get it to be decently high resolution though, and we might take a crack at using the bitmap mode of the VDC for the stills. Although for the moving drawing of the map area, we might probably have to do with the make do with the graphical text. We might use the bitmap mode for still graphics in certain locations. So it could be at least a little bit pretty. It's certainly going to be. It's probably going to be very similar thinking to Might and Magic 2, for example, where you're drawing basically 3 squares. The one you're standing on, and the one left and right to you, and probably the next 2 in front of you. So you're drawing basically 6 squares at the same time. It's going to be a the pseudo 3D sort of look. That's the idea, at least. We'll see how far we actually get with implementing that. And to start with, it's probably going to be very, very basic, but we might be able to fill it in a little bit more as we go along. We can. The advantage of doing this with text is that you can do this with basically lines to start with, and then fill it in as you go along. So you can start with a very basic thing and then slowly fill it in. That's kind of what you have to do with a game at this stage anyway. Might even start with just text characters. We'll put silence here. On level 3, we'll put create food, cure poison, a lasting light, walk on water, cold ray. Level 4. We have Serenade, which is part only. Power cure. Cure disease. Acid spray. Surface. Probably one more. Holy bonus. Swarm. Frenzy. I always did like that spell. Cure insanity. Surface is sort of one of them. Put the town portal here. We come in on level 4. The surface command counts there. That's the spell that allows you to escape from anywhere and just travel to the surface if you're in a dungeon. Gets you out of a bad spot, potentially. So we have the easygoing spells here. Put shelter here as well. I'm going to stone to flesh goes here. Water encasement comes here. Put the holy bonus here and hike it up a bit. Put create food here. Move the frenzy over here. Put the air encasement over here. Put the earth encasement over here. Fiery flail comes in here. So does moonray. Ray's dead is here. Mass distortion is here. Fire encasement is here. Mass distortion was on level 7. Holy word is here. Resurrect is here. Half for me is here. What else is here? Move rejuvenate to level 7. Here we have divine intervention. Holy word. Sunray. On curse item. A divine shelter. A spell that I just made up. That allows you to rest anywhere you like. Costs a ton of spell points, but allows you to rest. Might make it have some other down effects as well. I think we might have some currency for our spells, not just points, but also something like gems. well, probably not in a heavily restrictive sort of way, but I'm thinking we might have some sort of control. Let's take a quick counter at the sorcerer spells. We might put there. Awaken is always one of them. Detect magic. Energy blast. Flame arrow. And light. That's the 5. Electric arrow. Identify monster. Jump. Lloyd's beacon. Yeah, there's a lot of thinking to be done here, and we're probably missing lots of things as well. Beacon of Hope, we'll call it. It's basically Lloyd's beacon. Protection from magic, level 3. Acid arrow. Fly away. Lightning bolt. Web. Shield. This is where we have ninjutsu, which is ninja only. Then we have cold arrow, fireball, guard dog, which is sort of divine shelter but doesn't work nearly as well. Time distortion. Fingers of death. Sandstorm. Teleport. Dragon breath. Recharge item. Disintegration. Entrapment. Fantastic freeze. Super shock. Duplication. Dancing sword. I don't realize. Incinerate. Hmm. Enchant item. Power shield. . meteor shower. Yeah, that's one thing we were discussing earlier. I would much like this to be as close to a single load as possible, and there's a decent chance we might just do this on cartridge. Lots of people have these Kung Fu cartridges now, or they have an Ultimate 2 Plus or an emulator or something of the sort. So I prefer disc, but Josh came up with the idea of just doing a cartridge, and that actually makes a lot of sense as well. Give that some thought. And cartridge makes it very easy to just swap things in and out, bank them in and out. Toxic Cloud is going to come in here as a level 8 spell. It's going to be a lot more powerful. And put no. Oh. Okay, let's try to split these spells up here. Starburst is one of them. Implosion is one of them. Inferno is one of them. Inferno probably goes here. Whereas Starburst and Implosion go here. I'm missing one here. Put a swarm here. We put a swarm as a clerical spell. Okay, can't really be both. Can sort of be both, but not really. I'll put prismatic light here as well. It's a weird spell. Sometimes useful. Of course, we're just borrowing and stealing these spells from various games. That's just the way it is. Might have to change the names at some point, but that doesn't really matter. And put disrupt here. Put disrupt there. Super shield. Leaves us with 1. Okay, if we move guard dog from here over to level 5 and put people mind here. Let me take dragon breath. Push it here. Move duplication to level 7. I think we're mostly done. Roughly, we have a rough plan of what to do here. Lots of details in this, not a lot of details here. Let's list all the abilities. There was the skills stuff. Here. We've got athlete. Increased speed. Diplomat, increased personality. Gambler, increase luck. Linguist, increases intellect. We'll figure out more of these. Soldier increases endurance. Gladiator increases might. Probably the same thing. Yeah, we'll get back to this. Now we have to wonder about what this does in terms of abilities. There are rules about this that we might as well just follow pretty closely, but maybe not entirely to the letter. We'll see. There's might, intellect, personality, endurance, speed, accuracy, and luck. These are pretty much the ones that I like. And then it's just a question of how this fits into each. In terms of places, it's obviously towns. As an armorer or shopkeeper, I really don't want a split shop between different things. I don't want one shop for magical items and one shop for armor and one shop for weapons. I just want a shop. There needs to be a tavern. The tavern and the inn can probably be the same place. You can rest and you can buy food. You can save everywhere. I cannot tie that to any particular location. It's very annoying when you can't save whenever you want. You can make the game difficult in other means than not being able to save. It's super annoying. Now there's a shopkeeper, there's a tavern. There's a guild where you can buy spells. And there's a temple. Guild is for sorcerer spells, the temple is for clerical spells. Healing, blessing, donating. Food, rest, armor, weapons, some misc items. What else do we need? Other than just things that we make up and so on, that goes along with the story, which we're going to make up as we go along. Let's see. Some places to learn skills, obviously. Training. And probably I think we should probably have an arena, a place you could just go to and fight to get gold. If you want to level up or just need a few experience points that you want to get. Castles. Definitely going to have some castles. Maybe not many, but a few. Caverns. Strongholds. Fast travel. Should there be a cavern in town? Maybe. How the hell do you spell this word? Like this. I think I actually spelled it correctly. It just looked weird. I'm thinking we have these we have towns obviously, and then we will have plenty of enemies in the towns, and maybe we'll have a cavern underneath the town where you can sort of ease yourself into the game. Then we'll have some castles on the outside where you might probably definitely have some quests with some sort of lord, ruler, or king, and perhaps some enemies as well, and perhaps in more hidden places, no obvious enemies on the inside. Then you'll probably have a dungeon in the castle, which will be far more difficult. Have difficult enemies. Then you'll have outside caverns, which will probably be theme related to a certain type of enemy that lives in the terrain that you're on. Probably related in strongly in strength to your location, and then eventually you'll have outside strongholds. Thinking the outside caverns will have a small quest for each class, so you'll basically have a mini task that you need to complete, and then you will have these strongholds where you need to be a level 30 plus or level 25 plus or whatever, which is the final skills challenge for each character class. And then you probably have some ultimate dungeon where you need to fight off the evil warlords and defeat in battle. And I'm thinking you can't go in here unless you've finished the outside stronghold for each class that you have. You don't necessarily have to complete strongholds for classes that you don't have. But you could always complete the outside caverns, a smaller quest for each class, even if you don't have a member of that particular class. And probably you could complete these as well, but just for extra experience. It would just be perhaps more difficult for you because you'll try to align the monsters in there with the the skill of a certain class to some extent. We'll see how we do this. It's at least a rough guesstimate of how we could progress the game. There's a lot to do. There's a ton of stuff to do. What I'm going to work on off stream this week is trying to open up the machine, at least get this viewing area here with something that will basically look exactly like this, using just line drawings, so we can have something like this, and then I'll start working on fitting what we've already put into this document into how we could potentially map this into memory, and how much memory this will take, and how we could work this out, and place a limit on the number of monsters, for example, that we could potentially have. I need to really test in terms of the character graphics, how many different blocks we could potentially have, and whether we could store them in memory, or whether we could copy them from the cartridge and so on. Having a separated map helps a bit, but you also obviously need to fit both the tiles for the graphics for each map itself, and then you need to fit all the monsters that you want to put in there. You need to fit static graphical pictures of them. You need to fit all of that into memory somehow. We can play around with that a little bit. I'm thinking most of next stream will probably go to some sort of memory mapping exercise, where we try to decide what we can do with this. I'm hoping to at least have a rough frame, so we can throw something up on the screen, even if it's just for testing purposes, so we can actually see what this could potentially look like, even if it's just mock text-based stuff. Then we should probably just get cracking with coding the thing, making one module at a time, trying to split it into smaller tasks, so we can actually find some way of actually completing some of this. Since we're using CA65, it's not without the realms of possibility that we could write some of this in C. Don't necessarily have to write all of it in assembly language. Since the linker supports both the, we could both have a C compiler and an assembler and a linker. We can write some of these modules in C, and perhaps at some point that will make sense for some of this. Obviously, it will probably take more memory than assembling it, but then again, that all depends on how good you are with the assembler. Optimizers can be good as well. We'll see. And one of the most important things is probably to start working on some sort of tool to map things onto the maps, so we can there's lots of things that are associated with each map. You have a character graphic. You need to select which monsters go into the map. You have an action, which is probably something that you need to place on a per square basis. You have the type of wall, whether it's a hidden wall or a solid wall that you need to be able to draw in somehow. You have doors. You need to be able to place the special places in each area. You need to be able to place the monsters, and whether it's a one-off or a repeating thing, and so on. This is all something that would be very good to be able to do with a tool. So you can write some sort of rough tool that will largely generate the code underneath, so we don't have to do this all by hand. That's that in itself is probably a pretty big task. So there's lots to do, and I'll try to do one of these streams every week, and see how we get along. It's already midnight over here. I think I'll call it a night for now. This is fun. I'm very much looking forward to doing this. Just hope we actually see some progress, and we don't get stuck somewhere fairly early on. There is the benefit of being in an environment where I have coders here as well, so you could probably help me dig myself out of a ditch if it comes to that. Should I raid someone since we're doing this? Where should I leave you guys? With Mega Live, perhaps. Yeah, let's go raid Mega Live. If you have the emotes, please use the emotes. If you don't have the emotes, use the other message. I'll set it up. Thanks for coming in, guys. Thanks for sharing in this madness with me. I'll continue on Friday with Day of the Tentacle, and Saturday is the usual Shelton Saturday, Mad and Magic, Malarkey. Till then, you have an excellent rest of your night. You sleep well. See you guys later.